All right. So let's just sink into the room. It's been a busy day. But the amazing thing is, no matter how busy it is, no matter where you are, you can always come to a place of stopping. Spiritual life is an invitation to stop. To stop the search for something beyond this moment. The constant reaching, pushing, pulling, rejecting, clinging, all of it. We just stop. Hang on, I'm going to put us on mute here. For most people, that stopping is conditional, They can't stop until something has come to a conclusion, until the melody has come to its cadence. And that's why we practice stopping, so that you can stop mid-song, mid-thought, mid-chaos. And the second you do that, your entire perspective shifts. The second you do that, whatever energies your body has been rolling down the hill with suddenly begin to kind of come back into a place of balance. The chaos starts to fall off of you. And you just recover your center. Such a simple skill. Not doing is such a simple skill. Stopping. You come to a stop and it's like you can see the entire room get brighter. You come to a stop and you're suddenly capable of hearing again. Most of the pursuits that people call spiritual are really not stopping. They're just the storification of stopping. They're the turning of stopping into a story. They continue to build on your ego and your identity. We see it topple almost every organization. We watch things that start off clean just slowly become possessive and weird. And it's because that simple teaching has been made more complex than it needs to be. That willingness to stop is the whole thing. Even the Buddha, with all of the rules and regulations and the 12 thises and the 6 that's. Say that if you can find the emptiness, which is another way to describe stopping, then you have what you need to interpret any teaching. If you can just stop and abide in that space, everything comes clear. You can feel it when you sit in a class and you go into that space. It's like you know this is it. Everything in your body says yes. This is the natural state. This is it. And you can sit with any spiritual teaching and understand it. Unfortunately, the way so many paths are built, we turn spiritual life into a goal, which means we leave its heart behind. The heart that we're leaving behind is the simplicity of stopping, the simplicity of just emptiness, of just letting our hands open up and not grasp at anything. You know, I've had people in the past walk away from this path because they feel like we never get to the advanced teachings. And my response is always, there's no such thing. There's nothing more advanced than stopping. Everything else is just a trick to try and get you to stop. Every single technique is a trick to get you to stop. But anyone who finds their way into a class like this is someone who's ready to just approach it directly. It's a realization that is so subtle and logical that it doesn't seem like a big deal when it comes. I remember the first time I learned how to silence my mind. It came after a couple of years of struggle. I'd done everything, you know, I'd sat on rocks, I'd go up to the top of this mountain on this little island that I was living and just create this uncomfortable seat and all these things I thought I needed to do. I'd push and I'd pull and I'd hold and I'd struggle. But my intent was clean. And so one day I was walking across my teacher's property to the little hut where we used to meditate. And in that moment there was just a thought that said, what if I just stopped thinking? What if I just stopped? You know, what if it isn't any harder than that? And in that moment I stopped thinking and have had control over my thoughts ever since. It's that simple. You just stop. And then you sit in that space. And when you start to get that urge to rev things up again, because you don't know who you're going to be if you continue to stay there stopped, you just stop. And you stop. And you stop. Over and over. After a while, the part of your mind that needs to rev things up, because it isn't getting fed by your attention, it stops. It stops projecting new things for you to look at. And when that happens, in that moment, you abide in what's left without that. And what is left is this entire universe. All existence and all non-existence. And you just sit with that. At first, you don't necessarily understand any of it, but you don't need to. Just like when a baby first opens their eyes, they don't really know what all the different things they're seeing are. It's just a streak of brown moving through gray. They can't make out the features of it. But you just stay with it. And you come to get a deep, visceral understanding of its nuances in ways that would be very hard to describe. You know, it would be like describing the flavor of a soup. Or the differences between the taste of an apple and a pear. You're just left with the true living essence of what we all are. And as you continue, the lines between what you are and what the external universe is disappear. At first, you come to see that one is a reflection of the other. You come to see that what you carry inside your mind and your heart is what you see in your external world. But then after a while, even that disappears. And you find your identity in all of it. But that all comes from stopping. It's not something I can give to you. It's not something any teacher can give to you. It's not some initiation you're missing. All we can give you is an invitation. You have to accept it. At first, stopping can look kind of boring, but that means you haven't stopped. You've stopped certain parts of yourself, but that part of you that needs to be entertained is still revving away. And so you stop that too. And you'll know you're there because everything opens up. Everything feels new. And everything feels timeless. It's a living stillness that never grows stagnant. If you try to hold on to any one part of that stillness, you lose it. And it starts to grow stale. But if you just sit wide open with all of it, then a part of you that you don't even really know yet starts to perceive it. And that part of you can perceive its nuances. You're used to perceiving nuance with the intellectual mind. But this doesn't use your intellectual mind. You taste the flavors of that stillness with a different part of your energy body. And there's nothing you have to do to make that happen. It just happens on its own when you abide in that stopped place. Let simple things be simple. None of the problems standing between you and that place are real in any lasting way. You can stop in the face of those problems and still address whatever you need to address in your life. So let's step into that now. This is a smaller class tonight. You are people who have been at this for a while. Tonight require no entertainment. We're just going to stop. And just open up to what's left when we stop. Wide open. Nothing to cling to. Nothing to understand with our intellectual mind. And from that place, just notice what happens. What does that feed? What grows? Don't look for it. Just notice it when it arises. Look for nothing. We're calling off the search. Tonight, let's just stop. Okay, let's do that now. Decline the mind's invitation. There's nothing to do. Nothing to understand. Let nothing be enough. Let every fiber of your being open wide to the nothing of this moment. This nothing is your true home. It's where you came from and where you will return. And isn't it comfortable? Isn't it good news? It's the opposite of isolation. Unified, protective. This experience is the annihilation you fear. experience it now and realize there's nothing to be afraid of. This is what no one can take away from you. This has never been taken away from anybody. This is the core of anyone you've ever lost. And this is the core of you. So release yourself to it without fear. let go. The idea is to be like a cork floating on the sea. Rising and falling with the waves. And it feels like you're giving up control, when in reality, you never had it. By letting go of having to fight against the waves. You suddenly find yourself very much the master of your own energy. Ironically, it's an experience of being in control. But the doorway to it is relinquishing control. Stop everything. And just float on the sea. when you come to realize that this is your intended home, that this is where the real you is, even your story life gets easier. A cork that is floating on the surface of an ocean comes to know the nature of the ocean in the deepest of ways, because there's nothing standing between it and the ocean. It isn't pushing against the movement of the ocean in any way. And so the ocean actually expresses itself through it. The ocean of the present moment is healing. It's your true, unaberrated energy, your true, unconjured nature. When you step back into the world of stories, you're stepping back into aberrated energy. You're stepping back into conjurations of stories. But that same skill allows you to feel and know what's happening in your environment, because you're not pushing against it. So it has its expression. And this puts you on a path of cultivating wisdom. You come to know the causes and effects of things. You learn to move when the wind is at your back, and to rest when the wind is pushing against you. You stop expecting things from people that are incapable of giving you those things. And all the energy that gets squandered in the average human from just moving against the environment and expecting things that are never going to come and getting upset, all that energy returns to you. It becomes part of your personal power. It comes from right understanding of your environment. And it comes from the flexibility you learned on the surface of the water. So spiritual life doesn't start and stop in your meditation. It continues into the illusion, not as a resistance to the illusion, but to a more intelligent skill set for navigating the illusion. And that doesn't mean that you never push against the story. It means that you have the wisdom to pick your battles. We all have a different bar. My bar is I try not to feed anything that's harmful, and I try not to be permissive of anything that's harmful if it's happening in front of me. But that's energy I choose to spend. It can be expensive. But that's different than the average human who's just climbing every molehill. Expending energy over things that really don't matter. The wisdom to know the difference comes from first letting go and really experiencing what you're a part of. And that comes from your core practice of experiencing the ocean. That vast ocean of silence that we find in meditation. I'd like you to carry that with you this week. Practice in that way and be aware of it as you're walking through your life. Are there any questions about that before we end for the night? Okay, guys. Well, then I bid you good week, and I will see you next Thursday.